How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Down to Earth with Kristian Harloff. This is the every Monday through Friday, we do a news piece based on the UAP phenomenon. If you're brand new to the channel, thanks for joining us. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss one of these stories. We're rapidly approaching 20,000 subscribers. So we thank you guys for joining us here today as we discuss this and break this down. We have a full show, hour-long show that we do every Tuesday called UAP Tuesdays. That lives on the Down to Earth podcast feed. And if you want to see the video on that, that's on my other channel, just simply the Kristian Harloff channel. Okay, so I guess a lot of times I hate to repeat myself to where I tell people, well, the thing about me is I'm just a regular dude just asking questions about this thing. I'm brand new to it. It's been 6-7 months. And people are like, you don't have to keep saying that. We know it. But then I get a comment from people like yesterday, oh, you didn't know this? For a UFO channel, UAP channel, you don't seem to really be that adverse in all the information. And I'm like, no, that's the whole point. I'm asking questions every single day. I'm not, like today, that's why I work with Pavel, who you'll see in just a little bit. He knows a lot of these names. He knows a lot of these things. A year ago, I couldn't tell you who Robert Bigelow was. And Robert Bigelow is one of the bigwigs in the aerospace community. He'd been involved in this and getting information out, and he's had contracts, negotiations, and trying to basically all the stuff that, like, say, Lockheed Martin had gotten. He had put attempts to try to get those types of contracts. He's big in the space. James Fox mentions him all the time, all these different things. So there was an interview that he gave with 60 Minutes around, I think it was somewhere 3 to 5 years ago. I think it was 3 years ago. And what he says inside of the interview itself is very interesting. Well, why are you covering a thing he said 3 years ago? Because he clarified comments that he made in this interview today. So let me first play the interview from 60 Minutes, and then I'm going to play the follow-up. Here's the interview from 60 Minutes.
Do you believe in aliens?
I'm absolutely convinced. That's all there is to it.
Do you also believe that UFOs have come to Earth?
There has been and is an existing presence, an ET presence. And I spent millions and millions. I probably spent more as an individual than anybody else in the United States has ever spent on this subject.
Is it risky for you to say, in public that you believe in UFOs and aliens?
I don't care.
You don't worry that some people will say, did you hear that guy? He sounds like he's crazy.
I don't care.
Why not?
It's not going to make a difference. It's not going to change reality of what I know.
Do you imagine that in our space travels, we will encounter other forms of intelligent life?
You don't have to go anywhere.
You can find it here.
Yeah.
Where exactly?
It's just like right under people's noses. Oh my gosh. Wow.
The FAA confirmed to us that for years, it referred reports of UFOs and other unexplained phenomena to a company Bigelow owns. He told us he's had his own close encounters, but declined to go into detail. Robert Bigelow's quirky, and he knows it. But when you have as much money as he does, no one, not even NASA, seems to care.
Okay, so it's a big statement. And she even says to him, she's like, aren't you afraid people are going to say you're nuts? He's like, I don't give a damn. I know what I know. And I believe, and I'm going to have a confirmation from Pavel, who I think knows the answer to, I'm not sure. I believe the Bigelow was one of the people that put a squash on, or helped put a squash on the Schumer amendment, I think, because he didn't want certain information out that would risk some of the information and tech that he's got, I think. I'll get a confirmation if that's right. He might not be the guy, but I think that he was. But it's a big statement to say that. And he never really clarified exactly what he meant when they're among us. Like, what the hell does that mean? And the interviewer at the time didn't follow up with it. So he was asked that. And he was asked that question today. And here's the answer he gave.
Come back to me about a statement that you made years ago when you were interviewed on 60 Minutes, in which I guess the phrase you used is the aliens are right under our noses, and it never got clarified. And lots of people want to know, what did you mean by that?
Well, if Laura Logan had followed up, which I assumed she was going to do, but she didn't, I would have easily explained that if they're right under our noses in the sense that you can't have a phenomena for 75 years that has been doing the consistent, persistent exhibitions by the tens of thousands hundreds of thousands probably in terms of witnesses that it has been doing, including in 52 flying over the White House itself, you know, and just all interacting with the general public in all kinds of ways, without realizing it is right under your nose. And of course, if you're an astronomer, it doesn't count because you're not going to see anything through a telescope anyway. Well, you know, 99.999 times out of 100, you might see some kind of suspicious comet or something like that. But all that aside, so that's what I was coming at. Not like certain other researchers that actually literally and may have some reason to believe that they do walk among us, or you know, are among us. That's not where I was coming from. I was saying that you have to be pretty much blind, deaf, and dumb to not acknowledge that they've been here, they are here, and otherwise you live in a bubble that is so insulation, that has such insulation that you don't expose to yourself to even friends that talk about it, you know, and you have zero curiosity. So that's the answer that I meant to be given, not to saying that they actually walk among us.
All right, I don't know. It seems like two different people giving those interviews. Seems like somebody who's fairly confident, definitively knew, had experience. She even said as much in that 60 minutes. Said he had an experience, but didn't want to talk about it. And now here we are years later. He's like, well, no. Actually, what I meant was, of course, I believe in it, but no. What I'm not saying definitively. I'm just saying you have to think definitely. You know, if all these things are out there, I don't know. Sounds fishy. Sounds fishy over the last 3 or 4 years that in the manner that he changed his tune. So let me bring Pavel in here and we'll talk about all this stuff. All right. So Pavel, how's it going, man?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm tired. I'm tired. It's been a long week. So first of all, am I correct in that Bigelow was rumored as one of the guys who kind of put the squash on this bill because he didn't want some of his information being out there? Or did I make that up?
No, I get why you get the confusion, because he used to own Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
But Brandon Fugel bought it from him.
Okay.
And Fugel is the one who apparently had something to do with the gutting of the.
Oh, it's Fugel. So it wasn't Bigelow. Okay. So
but it is interesting though that Bigelow was very much into the phenomenon and the nuts and bolts and investigating these craft. And all of a sudden he just sold the ranch and he started going into consciousness studies. This man he's talking to in the new video is Dr. Mishlove, who is I don't know if he's the only one with a degree in parapsychology in the world. I may be wrong about that, but he's the most famous one and the most accomplished one. And when Robert Bigelow put out a contest to write about the life after death, Mishlove was one of the winners. And actually Nick Cook, who I interviewed on my channel, he was one of the contestants. And from that contest, Nick Cook got a position as the director of the new company Robert Bigelow owns. So he took a 180 in terms of studying the phenomenon. He still studies phenomena and he still invests a lot of money in it, but he's kind of out of the aerospace stuff, right?
And he also doesn't seem to be as big of a mouthpiece as he was, say, that I think that was 3 years ago, that interview. But did you see the change when you look at him from 3 years ago to when you see him now? He's like, well, no, what I meant was this. And I think that if you interviewed that guy from 3 years ago right afterwards, I feel like he would have had a very different answer than what he gave today.
Yeah, I agree. And also, well, one can speculate, right? It does seem kind of odd. Maybe, I don't know, he was told some information that made him,
well, she
take back some of the comments.
She said as much in that report, right? That he had an experience that he didn't want to get into.
Yeah. And it's something that happens a lot with many of these bigwig people. because they have one stance like 5 or 6 years ago, and then all of a sudden they make a 180. And I don't know if that's because either an intelligence community got to them and got them to sign NDAs, or if they were told something that got them scared, because something similar is happening in Congress. I don't know if
Rubio,
you've
right?
noticed Gillibrand.
Okay.
She was very on the topic, and all of a sudden she was just away from it.
Same
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 thing,
with Rubio.
Rubio. Yeah. So that's kind of strange.
Yeah, it's interesting. But it doesn't seem, because he didn't do a 180 as far as his beliefs go, because he still very much so said, no, you'd have to be an idiot to think that of all these things and all the sightings and everything that they saw, that you wouldn't already know that. But he's just, whatever it was, like, definitively that was making him say that, as you were saying, it's just something was like, don't talk like that anymore. And it's very, very interesting to say. And it's also, are there people like that would get subpoenaed, do you think, in situations like if he has his own type of story and he was at that? Because people with money, that kind of money, find a way to find out answers.
Yeah, I'm sure he knows a lot of classified stuff, but I also know that if the government or any of these intelligence communities think that what he's saying is harmful for national security, they're going after him and they're going to tell him, dude, scale it down, man. You can't be saying those stuff in public. It's pretty easy to come up with that, like.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's true. But the broader statement, right? Go back 3 years ago, and what he's talking about as far as now, if you believe that the person from 3 years ago was saying that definitive statement like he knew, what do you think about those statements? What do you think about the idea that he seems pretty clear? I mean, even the interview from today is just pretty definitive, that in the belief that, yeah, of course, they're here.
Yeah, I mean,
because
think about
we've always talked about, though, you and I, that we still don't have an answer yet, as far as
No.
could be drones, could be foreign governments, could be whatever it might be. But it seems like he has more of an idea of what he believes it is.
Yeah. Also, I have been plunging myself into all the literature that's been coming out for the last 7 years or so. And I'm sure Bigelow does agree with many of the authors that have written about this topic and have their own theories. So the most important, in my view, to look out for are Jacques Vallée, John Keel, Patrick Harper. They're the ones that they studied this topic, they studied the phenomenon, and they came out with their own conclusions on what they think this is. And I think Bigelow has an understanding of these authors, and also scientists who have also studied these, such as, I don't know, the late Stanton Friedman, or right now we have Dr. Michael Masters, and Vallée himself, who's still very much involved in all of this. And I think Bigelow has a pretty good idea, because he's been spending time with these people over the years.
All right. Well, see, yesterday's story was kind of mind blowing. This one adds to it. And if you put both of those stories together, of what could be and what those things could be capable of, and what we're trying to do to match it, it's enough to melt your brain in half. Pavel, as always, man, thanks for joining me.
My pleasure, Kristian. Thanks.
All right. So what say you guys when it comes to this? This is a dude with a lot of money. This is a guy who's done a lot of things. Is it one of these cases of like, look, if I had billions and billions of dollars, I would find a way to make Smurfs real? Is that what he's doing here? Is that what you're like? Yeah, okay. Look, $1 billion. Someone, you can sniff around and someone could tell you this or that. What do you really know? And then you're changing your tune and you're just going along with it. Or is there something to what he was saying? Do you think it's odd, the fact that he was on this 60 minutes definitively saying, yeah, they're here, and he's still saying, oh, well, of course, I'm not saying that they're here, that I know that they're here. I'm just saying it makes sense if you look at all the evidence. Is that weird? The way he changed his tune? Lots to talk about. So, as always, put your comments in there. You guys have been very active on the comment section. That's super helpful, and it's great to see how passionate you guys are about it. And then hit the subscribe button, because that also helps. We just hit 18,000, growing pretty quick now, and you guys have been getting us there. So let's get to 20. Thanks for joining us here today. Thank you to Pavel, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Right? Tomorrow's Thursday. We'll be here tomorrow. All right, bye.